Let's take a closer look at the U.S. fighter jet that Iran says it downed over the southwest. The first model of the U.S. F-18E Strike Eagle fighter was delivered in 1988. It's a dual-role fighter jet, and that means it can conduct air-to-air combat and ground attack missions. The plane has 2 crew members, a pilot and a weapons officer. When it was first released, each plane cost $31 million. Newer models are now closer to $100 million. Joining us now is Sami Puri. He's a visiting lecturer in war studies at King's College in London, and he is joining us from Singapore. Thank you so much for being with us to talk about this story. I want to ask you first, how difficult of a search and rescue operation will this be for the United States?
Well, it's going to be very challenging because it's going to be a search and rescue mission that's being conducted under the further threat of Iranian fire at any of the aircraft, whether they're helicopters or other aircraft being used in the search and rescue mission. There's only a limited amount that satellites and things can do at a certain level, because this is looking for one individual, one crew member from the F-15E that was shot down in a very large area. Some of it's mountainous, some of it's desert. But a lot of it's going to require quite a close view from aircraft that are having to pass through the threats of further enemy fire. And of course, for Iran, downing a third American aircraft in quick succession would be a very, very big prize indeed.
Samir, I want to play for you, before I ask the next question, a clip from the U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and what he's been saying over the past couple of weeks.
I hope all the folks watching understand what uncontested airspace and complete control means. It means we will fly all day, all night, day and night, finding, fixing, and finishing the missiles and defense industrial base of the Iranian military.
We've done all of it. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Their missiles are just about used up or beaten.
So, Samir, that was the Defense Secretary and also obviously the U.S. President Donald Trump. What does this mean for the narrative that they have total control now over Iran's skies?
It's interesting because at a very basic level, it's deeply embarrassing, simply because air superiority, which is what Hegseth and Trump are talking about there, has been something they've spoken of very prominently, perhaps too prominently, I think. And this challenges that narrative. Now, on the other hand, from a more military perspective, it is important to understand what air superiority actually means. It doesn't necessarily mean that an aircraft can fly across the adversary's country and suffer no risk. It's just that the risk is very, very minimal. So one has to put this into context, which is that the US and Israel have now flown in just about 35, 36 days, probably thousands of sorties in terms of individual aircraft. And so far they've had very few incidents where aircraft have been hit, and certainly these 2 being shot down. Of course, the previous 3 US aircraft that were downed in a mistaken identity case with a friendly Arab state country's aircraft targeting by mistake. So I think, relatively speaking, the claim of air superiority still holds, but the mounting toll of US aircraft, which may grow further if they continue to mount these sorties at this rate of frequency, can start to challenge that narrative and start to challenge the parameters of freedom within which the US Air Force in particular can operate in these areas that are quite close to the Persian Gulf, that I think are going to be increasingly important for the Americans to want to attack, to try to also regain control over the security situation around the Straits of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf more generally.
The president also says that this incident will not affect negotiations with Iran. Is that realistic?
No, it's not realistic, because negotiations do not only comprise, in wartime, of the things that the negotiators say, it's also the implicit sense of advantage as the battlefield picture changes. So this is hugely symbolic, a moment of triumph for the Iranian military, which has, of course, been on the receiving end of an enormous amount of firepower and munitions that have been fired at them by the US and Israeli air forces and ballistic missiles and other things. This is one of the first moments that Iran and the Iranian military and the IRGC will feel that they have some momentum, even as you've already asked me about on the rhetorical point, challenging this notion of air superiority. So no, I don't think it's totally immaterial. Just one last reflection on this. Everybody remembers the Black Hawk Down incident from Somalia, different war, 1993. A lot of what that entailed as a military disaster for the US were individual missions to recover downed US helicopters in that case. So there's no assurance that this situation doesn't snowball in a more difficult, sort of heartbreaking direction for the US if they suffer more casualties trying to recover this one lost aircrew.
Right. Sami Puri from King's College London, thank you very much for joining us from Singapore.
Thank you.